Sometimes in our teaching, we put a lot of emphasis on when somebody is not feeling well. We might say, well, what's in your consciousness? And it doesn't work that way. It may indicate something that's going on in our life, but, people do have challenges. We are physical beings walking through this spiritual experience. So sometimes we need to let go to embrace an even greater experience. Which brings me to our talk this morning, Rising in Consciousness. It's Easter Sunday, and Ernest Holmes wrote it like this: the resurrection is the death of the belief that we are separate from God. God did not die. Nothing dies. It transforms. It changes energy and becomes something new. According to Matthew's version of the resurrection, when Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to the sepulchre, they found it empty, and an angel was there to tell them that Jesus had risen. Interesting, isn't it? That a physical rising would happen. But as we can look at it as a rising in consciousness, we transcend this thing called death. Now, the physical body, you could look at someone who's made their transition and say, they're definitely not there. Their body may still be there, but their being has transcended. That's why in our teaching, we don't call it death, we call it, you make your transition. You changed form, just as if you had taken a pot of water and put it on the stove and turned it up to high and left, and it all evaporated. And you may say, it went away. It's gone. And as my dad pointed out to me, look at the edges of the windows. See that vapor that has collected. It's changed form. It's not gone. It's just not something we can see with our human eyes. So the Easter story presents the defining principle of both traditional and metaphysical Christianity. In both cases, Easter illustrates that life, not death, is the truth behind the appearances to the contrary. We celebrate Easter in the spring because all around us we see the resurrection of new life. In the old dry stalks, we see new growth, new buds coming out. We are marveled at the tendency to see the proliferation of this universe. And we see it everywhere. You have to cut the grass again. All of a sudden, the roses are taking on new form and buds are coming out. So, in metaphysics, we invoke the principle of resurrection in our current affairs by dying to the old, or letting go of old ideas, thought patterns, and beliefs, and by affirming new ones, by praying and taking action. A good metaphysician knows that we have a term in this teaching called treat and move your feet. It means pray and make something happen in the world. You don't just pray and then wait for it to happen. You get busy in the world doing things to assist that prayer. You make a place for that prayer to be manifest in your life. For if you're going to look for a job, you don't just pray and then sit down in your living room and turn on the TV. Hopefully you've made out some applications somewhere, gotten your resume online to those places where people can see it. That's how action happens. That's how a miracle can happen. If you want to win the lottery, you've got to buy a ticket, right? It helps. Unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies of its old way, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. It dies to the seed that it was. The seed idea. The thoughts that we have in our head are only thoughts until we take action and start doing something to manifest them in the world. And that's what this spring is all about. We see action in life. And, we've had all winter to kind of slow down and drink soup and tea. And now it's time to get out and be out with nature again, dust off your camping gear, get the mobile home, all revved up, right? Yes. Life is always creating new channels through which to express itself. Our work is to make ourselves as open as possible to the renewing energy of this resurrecting force, so that every point of our experience may expand and flourish. So if you're finding there's a place in your life where you're not flourishing, ask what you need to know. So often I'll have something happen and I'll get into the problem of it. And I should have done that, or I should have done, I should on myself, where I should be asking, what can I do now? What action can I take today to make it better? Maybe it's time to begin to release our fears about something. I know. We start to affirm something new, because if we don't change something, we get what we always got, And us human beings are so creative, I want everything to be different, but don't change anything on me. God forbid anything changes. But if we're going to change, if we want change, we have to be the change we seek in the world. Maybe this is the time to release that fear and affirm the resurrecting power of the universe at this time, now, lifting you beyond restrictions, all uncertainties and all inhibitions, that your life is full of new possibilities. Could that be it for you now? This could be your New Year's Day. And that's what I think it was set up to be, this is a time of renewal. This is a time to think differently. Because if we think the way we always have, that energy flows where our attention goes. So where's your attention? If it's on the problem and you're creating more challenges, you're demonstrating perfectly how the law works. And you think, this stuff doesn't work. I keep creating more challenges. So what is your resurrection story? How can you rise in consciousness today? What had to pass away in your life so something greater could be brought into the light of our understanding and awareness? What did you have to let go of? And how are you rising in consciousness in your life today? Because this is your story. This isn't just the story about something that happened. This is a story that is happening now. We are changing and growing in incredible ways. Rebirth is the main theme behind not only the Christian story, but other religions that have celebrated the resurrection story. The symbolic nature of Easter is the process of dying to the old self and being reborn in a new spiritual sense. So happy birthday, everybody. Hey! Really, this can be a new birth for you. You can transform your energy. Whatever happened yesterday and before that, bless it and thank it that it got you here. Now, what you gonna do? What are you gonna do now? That's the big question. Beyond any religious dogma lies a deeper meaning that can be utilized for anyone inclined to live a more fulfilling life. Easter can be a powerful metaphor, one that helps us to re-examine our current state of being and then decide how to move forward and evolve. Are you ready to evolve? And that's the big question, because sometimes we go, absolutely, but not that area. That area, don't go there. Don't bring that up. But we need to bring it up. We need to talk about our uncomfortableness so that we can walk through it. If the energy doesn't shift, it stays the same and stagnates. Just like when we so-called damn something, you ever said, oh, damn it. Well, you block the consciousness when you say that. Something comes up and stops the energy flow. So I urge you to think differently and go, oh, bless it. Takes a couple times. I know that for sure. Sometimes, it's a process. It takes years. But if you can think differently, you start to shift the energy. Have you been carrying around an old story, a mantra, a belief system that has been a hindrance to you? I know I did. And we just have to give it up. There comes a time when telling the old story, you get to the point where you go, you know what? I'm not going to tell that story anymore. I'm not going to be in that old way anymore. So Dennis Merritt Jones, one of our ministers, wrote in one of his books, he said to write down your story that you want to get rid of and put it in a box and then bury it. Literally, take a shovel and place the box in the ground and cover it with dirt. Maybe even plant a tree on top of it. We can grow out of our old story, but we must be willing to let it go. It's a good time to plant a tree. I planted a tree yesterday. I was given a certificate by the practitioners here when my dad passed away, and I went out and got him a Japanese maple tree and planted it in my new yard. And as I was digging the hole, as I was preparing the soil, I was consciously doing that same activity. Like, what am I uprooting? What am I releasing? It's time for something new. This is a great time to get your hands dirty. Sometimes we need to get our hands dirty to release something that no longer serves us. And what they say is the things that you want to come into your life can't come in because the things you don't want are taking their place. Ugh. Sometimes we have to let go and release. So I got this next portion from Dr. Edward Viljoen, who is the minister of the Santa Rosa Center for Spiritual Living, and one of my mentors. I love what he says. And this is from his edblogword.blogspot.com. You have to give credit where credit's due, but he says this: at the Center for Spiritual Living, we are motivated by a compelling vision, a vision of a world that works for all. A world free of homelessness, violence, war, hunger, and separation. A world in which there is generous sharing of heart and resources. A world in which forgiveness is the norm and in which borders are irrelevant. A world in which has a renewed emphasis on beauty, nature, and love through a resurgence of creativity, art, and aesthetics. A world in which fellowship prospers and connects through the guidance of spiritual wisdom and experience. A world in which we live and grow as one human family. One human family. And that's why the Easter story can be our story. In that you can't have how it is now and also how it will be afterwards. Something must change. For example, you can't use up all of Earth's resources and dream about a world that works for everyone. You can't dream about a world that works for all, but refuse to give up anything if it impinges upon your own personal freedom. You can't want honesty and right action in politicians and world leaders, and at the same time, you want to sit and rest. Something has to die completely. Something has to change. Maybe even an entire way of life has to die completely to change something new. Are you willing to do that? I believe that throughout the transformation, all the changing and dying, what does not die is the vision. our vision of a world that works for all. We must keep that in the forefront, because without a vision, we don't have a place to move to. We perish. The vision of a peaceful kingdom, the vision of a world that works for all, the idea that you have for rightness, goodness, and truth in the world, they prevail and carry us forward. So in conclusion, and Dr. Edward says this for himself, I have made an adaptation of Reynolds Newberg's famous prayer for times when transformation seems frightening or when I know I must, but I don't want to. Spirit, wisdom within me, give me the peace to embrace the things I cannot control. And Spirit, strengthen within me, gives the courage to change the things that I can, and well as the wisdom to know the difference between the two. And so I live one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, seeing hardship for what they are. I take this world as it is instead of insisting that it be any different, trusting that goodness has made all things perfectly. I surrender to what is so that I may live in peace in this world and the next. I am perfect. Everything is perfect. Live in your perfection. And so it is. So it's time for our healing prayer. So we're just going to take a moment and follow our teaching and go within. So I invite you to bring to the forefront of your consciousness what you believe the energy of creation is for you. Call it whatever you want, source energy, great spirit, God. We know that there is a power that is animating all that is. It is breathing our body and beating our heart, and is actually the healing essence that is moving all the molecules in our bodies to the right place for divine healing to happen. That is moving our mind in the right ways of healing so we may release what no longer serves us. And it is that energy that we connect to this Easter Sunday. For we are recreated by the renewing of our thoughts. So I bless this day. I bless each and every individual within the sound of my voice and beyond. I know that prayer is the power that heals and reveals the truth. And I allow that energy to work in this moment in a way that is miraculous for each individual. I know that something wonderful is happening. Something is transforming each one of us because we are here. So I move into the energy of allowance. I move my bloated nothingness out of the way so the divine circuits can flow easily. And the healing and revealing of truth is happening right now. So I give great thanks for that time, that space, and that place. As I place these words directly into that living, loving law of mind where it returns fully orbed and resplendent. For I know today is a beautiful day in the mind of God, as we affirm it together by saying, and so it is. Amen. Okay.